Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Eric Persing.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. So you guys like my little rig here? It's kind of fun. There's a lot of fun over there, and we'll get into that later. There's so much that we want to show and so much cool stuff that's happening. But first of all, I want to thank you guys for coming to celebrate with us 2.5. This has been a long time in the works, and we're super excited about it. Okay, so first of all, how many of you guys are already Omnisphere users? Yes! All right, awesome. So I thank you, my family thanks you, and that's awesome. Here's a trip. Can you believe that Omnisphere is now 10 years old? Isn't that a trip? We introduced it in 2008. So it's come a really long way since then. In fact, I'm thrilled to announce that Omnisphere version 2.5 has a brand new high-res interface. So that's something we have not announced. You guys are the very first people to see it. And so just to show you how far we've come, let's take a look at the original OG Omnisphere version 1 interface from 2008. And so now let's take a look at the new interface. There we go. So it's a lot bigger, and it's obviously a very modernized, sleek kind of look. And so why don't we take a look at something that's a brand new interface feature, the new granular. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a blues phrase here. So the granular interface is really improved because we can now see the waveform. And now when I turn on the granular, okay, now we'll turn up some pitch grains. Cool? And so yeah, it's really cool. And watch if I reverse the waveform. If I reverse the waveform, then you see it reversed. And so now what you see is what you get. You're actually seeing the grains in action instead of the sort of artistic expression version we had before. So, and of course, you can put your own audio in Omnisphere. So that's one of the great things now is that you have this fantastic new granular interface. So that's really, really cool. All right, so moving on. One of the biggest things that has changed in 2.5 is that the engine is massively more powerful. Because Omnisphere 2.5 now has 4 layers per patch. So this is a big, big deal, because before we had two layers. So it's like, okay, so it's twice as powerful. That is an insane increase in sound design power. Just think of this. A single instance of Omnisphere now includes up to 64 LFOs, 64 simultaneous filters, all running at the same time, 96 complex envelopes, and 160 discrete oscillators per note. Okay? So that is an insane amount of synthesis power, right? That's crazy. So anybody that says that Omnisphere is not a synth, it's time to go home, okay? I think with 160 oscillators, we qualify now. So Omnisphere is just ridiculously powerful. And it has been for a long time. And of course, numbers and specs only tell a part of the story. So let's hear this thing. All right, so I'm just going to play you a 4-layer patch that I had fun making. And it's just kind of one of these like big wow sounds. It's a big sounding thing. It's a big sounding thing. So yeah, so obviously it doesn't only do giant sounds that don't fit in a mix, but it's pretty great at all kinds of things because it is so doggone powerful. So that's a 4-layer patch. The new interface also has a redesigned live mode that I want to show you. And so let's take a look at this here and check this out. So the live mode now, you can see a lot more on the screen at once. You can see your levels, you can change your trigger modes, mute and solo, latching, and all of that happens right here on the live page. You still have the old one too, but you have this, if you ever use OmniTR, this is like the OmniTR interface is actually built in now to Omnisphere. And so you can see a lot better what you're doing on stage, which is very important, obviously. And this is incredibly useful to have with another super cool 2.5 feature that we're announcing for the first time tonight, which is full support for Windows multi-touch. So you can now multi-touch Omnisphere and directly on the interface. So I'm going to show you, and I know I'm like, this is kind of like I'm breaking the sacrosanct thing because I've never used like a Windows computer on the stage. CJ's giving me a hard look right now. But so I can now, unfortunately, Macintosh does not support multi-touch. So write to your friends at Apple and say, please do that, and we will be happy to support that. But it's currently working in Windows, and it's quite cool because I can now run Omnisphere on this Windows tablet. And yeah, so I'm running this whole Omnisphere. That's like a full-blown i7 Omnisphere. And so that's really cool. So I can now navigate the interface with touch. So it's pretty awesome, right? Because I can select multiple patches like that. And so let's just try some stuff and see what happens. Put something else with it. I was all just jamming around with the live mode, just trying some different patches together. And yeah, so we've done a lot in making Omnisphere more and more powerful and a great experience on the desktop. But there's always been one huge issue that separates software synths and hardware synths, and that's the human interface. It's actually turned our beloved synth world into warring camps of the virtual versus the real synths, which is, of course, completely ridiculous. So Omnisphere 2.5's biggest new feature is something that completely tears down that wall and now bridges both worlds. And it's called Hardware Synth Integration. What is it? Well, basically when you connect a hardware synth, Omnisphere acts just like that hardware synth. And so that's pretty amazing. So everything that you see on the panel, all the controls, all the interface you're used to using, it just works. So it's pretty crazy how it works. And that's what this is all about here. See this crazy rig over here? You know what this is? This is all the supported hardware synths that now work seamlessly with Omnisphere 2.5. So it's over 30 synths, and we're just getting started. So that's really, really cool. So I'm gonna jump over here and show you a little bit of it. And everything you're about to hear is not from the synths. It's not coming from the actual synths. In fact, the audio outputs are not connected. You can see there's no quarter-inch jacks anywhere. Only USB and MIDI cables, and they're all connected into laptops. So you're actually listening to the laptop. Let me come on over here. I feel like I should have my Rick Wakeman cape. It's really, really cool, and it's extremely easy to use. So this is all you have to do on Omnisphere. See this little HW button here? That's hardware. So it's right there at the top of the interface, and then you just pull up. Here's all the synths that are supported at the moment. We're adding more all the time. And let's select, why don't we select a Minimoog Voyager? Okay, I just happen to have a Minimoog Voyager right here. And so this is really, really cool. Now Omnisphere is set up to work like a Minimoog Voyager. And this is an old synth. This is a synth from the early 2000s. And it works just brilliantly. So let's check this out. Okay, and what you're going to see is you're going to see a brand new feature that we haven't announced yet, and you guys are the very first to see it, and it kind of finishes up this hardware integration thing, which is super cool, which is that when you touch the synth controls on the actual synth, Omnisphere follows what you're doing on the hardware synth. So it is actually jumping to the pages. So if I change the cutoff, it jumps to the filter page, right? Isn't that awesome? So yes, okay, so what's the point? Why would you use the computer when you have the Voyager sitting here? I've had some people ask, like, I don't get it. What's the point? Well, you can do a lot more with it than you can with the actual Voyager. So first of all, we have effects. So I can now control the effects. Second of all, I can control the polyphony. So I can now have it polyphonic, right? Which you can't do on a Minimoog Voyager. So now I'm adjusting the envelopes. And we'll put on some effects here. So isn't that crazy? So that's just That's just a little bit of messing around with the Voyager, and all of the modulation stuff works. You know, as soon as I select something like a destination, I'm changing the modulation routings in the mod matrix from a Moog Voyager. Crazy, right? So this integration is a lot more than MIDI learn. It's very, very sophisticated, all the things that are happening. And one of the coolest things is, everyone remember that the Moog Voyager has this cool little touch plate in the middle? It's an XY coordinate touch plate, but like nobody ever uses it. Well, we just happen to have like a really cool XY device called the orb. So when I touch it now, and it'll do different things on every patch I select. So let's like, I'll try this one. This is an interesting one. This is not the kind of sound you expect to hear from a Moog Voyager. So yeah, so it's really, really fun, and the Voyager is the only one that has that. So each synth has unique features, right? That's why we love synths. That's why we can't ever decide how many we should buy, because there's always another one that does something cool a little differently. And so that's one of the neat things, is that Omnisphere is so powerful. It's not so much, the problem is not so much that there's not more power in Omnisphere, but it's how do you access it? How do you interact with it? And so now and it gives you a good idea of how powerful Omnisphere actually is, because all the functions on all these synths all work. So that means Omnisphere can do all of these things. It's just missing the physical interface to do it. So let's move over to the OB6, and I'll load up the Dave Smith OB6 profile. And again, so easy to do it. It's just as simple as... And as you can see, when I change the mixer, you can see that these are OB6 wavetables. So we also modeled the OB6's sound. So when I change the shape control, and we'll pop some unison on that. Bring our spread up here. We also added a new filter just for the OB6, which is an Omnisphere 2.5, which is a state variable filter, because we didn't have a filter where you could go between low pass, notch, and high pass smoothly. So now you can, that's a brand new filter type. Apply some LFO to that. Let's try. Again, all the modulation stuff works. So it's really, really incredibly powerful. Also, we can call up all the effects. So when I turn the effects on in the OB6, it calls up the right effects. So my chorus is my chorus, phaser is phaser, flangers. Isn't that crazy? So let me just pop this on here. use something. And I've got and I'll go to clock sync, and now I've got it tracking, and you can see, I don't know if you can see the display here, but I've got the eighth note triplets and everything is all scaled and mapped. So what you see on the OB6 is what you get in Omnisphere. So you can completely look at it and not even look at Omnisphere if you don't want. But then it's jumping to the right page, so you can, the OB6 only has 2 effect controls. Omnisphere has 16 per effect. So you can do a lot more with the effects in Omnisphere, obviously, than you can in the OB6. But the immediacy is so great to have in the OB6. So that's just a little quick example of that. And again, it just sounds great. It's got that Oberheim vibe to it, and it's really, really a cool sound. So let's go back a little bit more to the Moog thing again, and let's call up the Sub 37, which is modern Moog, fantastic synth, very popular, and it has a real aggressive sound. That's kind of what it's known for. And already, you can tell it has a whole different vibe, even just with the filters open. And so let's bring it down. Okay, and one of the things that makes the Sub 37 is this multi-drive knob. It's fantastic what it does. It adds all this character. So we spent a lot of time mimicking that and figuring out how to get that vibe. And so when I pull the multi-drive control, it goes from this to so when it's cranked up all the way like that, it just has incredible attitude. It's a clean sound. So yeah, so that's an example of the Sub 37. So far I've been showing it on synths that are really expensive, and so everyone's going like, okay, that one's $3,000, that one's $2,500. I got to talk to my wife about that one, and so we all know how that conversation goes too. So here's the good news: is that it's not just Premier boutique synths, but it's the boutique. Rolands, for example. We have all the boutiques working, and so these are awesome. These are like a couple $100, $200-300 a piece, and they're these little miniature Roland, little synth things, and they're just great. So I'm going to call up, and each one has a different character. And again, we've gone to great effort to get the vibe of the unit. So the JX3P is near and dear to my heart. It was my first project with Roland a long time ago, and it was my first sound library I ever sold. I sold it on cassette interface, and maybe some of you are here who bought it when I worked at Goodman Music. Who knows? And there's no refunds on that, by the way. So this is really fun because we really got the essence of the JX vibe. And then let's high pass filter it. And it's just that thing. It's like so JX-y sounding. that's got a very distinct sound. The old DCO kind of vibe to it. And it's definitely got that character. And as you can see, when I call up a profile, it immediately loads up the sounds that were created for that profile. So that's really cool too, because then you get the vibe of the sounds right away too. So let's jump over here to a completely different one, different boutique, and I'll just show you how different each one can sound. So this is the VP03 vocoder, which it's modeled on the VP330, which is like a string machine, electronic choir kind of thing. And it's got such a great sound, and it's like kind of the classic string machine thing. And I can control turn off the ensemble effects, change the envelopes or the filtering. So that sounds nothing like the Oberheim, sounds nothing like the Moog, sounds nothing like the JX. So each one's got its own vibe. So that's pretty cool. So the boutiques are great because they don't break the bank. They're small, like the controls are microscopic. So you got to use tweezers to use them, but they're awesome. There's also some other great inexpensive synths that we're supporting, like the Novation Base Station. This is fantastic. It's super cheap, great build, and does tons of stuff. Also like System 1 and all kinds. Yeah, like the Korg Monolog and the Mini Log is over here somewhere too. Yeah, over there. So there's a lot of different ones, and these are all like new synths you could buy for a few $100s, and then you have all of this functionality and control. So that's it's really cool to be able to use different kinds of synths. So let's take a look at the Korg Pro log real quick, and come up here to Korg land. And this is a pretty new synth. It's just come out this year. It's really nice. It's an excellent analog polyphonic synth, and it's got quite a different sound to it. Let me pull out one of these patches here. Sounds great, right? Of course, the audio outputs aren't connected, but we're listening to Omnisphere. We're listening to the computer. But we're controlling it with this, and we've done our modeling of the wavetables on this brand new synth. And so this is a really cool one because this has 3 oscillators, and you've got kind of straight ahead oscillators there. And the effects control is very nice. You can dry it up real quickly. And this third oscillator is called a multi-oscillator. And that can access all sorts of different wavetables. So let's bring that up, and now we've got so you can add those kind of vibes in there. And we can also go farther than the hardware, right? Because Omnisphere has ridiculous numbers of LFOs and all that stuff, right? 64. The Prologue only has one LFO. So we can go beyond what the hardware can do by through the hardware synth integration, so that when I'm on the pitch target, I've got it's got a unique LFO, so I'll use that for vibrato. Okay, and then the shape, I'm going to use that for, I'm going to have a slower. And then on the cutoff, I'm going to have a different waveform. I'll use and there you have it. I've got 3 LFOs going on the Korg Prologue, even though it only has 1. So yeah, so we can do a lot of really cool things with this technology. Brand new synths that are real high tech, like the System 8, and that's got some beautiful sounds. I'll pop that up, and you'll hear that this character issue really come up, where like the Roland and the Korg, they have a different, real different vibe to them. And so that's a brand new synth, and you can do all sorts of cool things, like you can sequence the parameters on the synth, and that gets sent to Omnisphere. So like there's some really slick things you can do on that particular synth. But again, we can go back to, we don't have to have the latest and greatest thing, because we also support things like the Nord lead. This was the very first Nord lead in the United States. I bought the first one. Way back when. And so we pulled that out of the closet and got it working with Omnisphere. And so now it's an incredible Omnisphere controller. So let me see what I've got here. So that's a really old synth, and even that one works great too. So yeah, so hardware synth integration is really powerful. I'm going to close up with showing you the very latest and greatest synth that's come out on the market that is also supported in Omnisphere 2.5, which is the Prophet X. And so this is super cool because it lets you do some things that none of the other profiles do. So on the Prophet X, you have 2 synthesized sounds, 2 synthesized oscillators, and 2 sample-based oscillators. So Omnisphere happens to have 4 layers now, and any of the layers can be samples or synthesis. So let's pull up on this guy. You can see all the different layers. So I've got sawtooth there, and there. And then on the second layer, I've got a African phrase there. And what I can do is if I hit the loop button, it will call up the granular interface, right? I'm not touching the computer. Notice that? I'm doing this from the hardware. So I can now open the browser, so I can browse through the sound source browser, which most of you probably don't even know is there. We have it as a browser, a huge browser with thousands of sounds that are just the raw elements of Omnisphere called the sound source browser, and they're basically like samples, multi-samples. So here I am with the Prophet X, and I'm navigating the categories from a knob, and I'm going to pull up the phrases, and now I'm calling up different phrases here. Okay, so here's the crazy thing. The Prophet X doesn't even have granular synthesis. So we're able to now do, you can use the Prophet X to do granular synthesis in Omnisphere, and you can even put your own audio in Omnisphere, and then you're controlling it from Prophet X. And so it's amazing to have the combination of those two things. And the kinds of sounds you come up with are very different than the kinds you come up with on the JX, for example. So like, here's a fun kind of film thing. Here's another one where the sound starts, and then as I hold it, the grains start to come in. So yeah, so that's a little bit about the hardware synth integration. That's crazy, right? Crazy stuff. Okay, so yeah, so it's extremely fun and powerful, and we're really excited about it. It's like we've been dreaming of this for years to be able to bridge that gap between the two. But the hardware synth integration is not all. There's more to Omnisphere 2.5 than that. One more thing, yes. And that is that Omnisphere 2.5 comes with a brand new, awesome collection of patches, which is called the Hardware Library. And these new patches, I've been playing through some of them, these were all created using the hardware profiles. So it's a massive library, and they have tons of the character of the original sounds. And we're really proud of this new set. And they add a lot of really awesome new vibes to Omnisphere. You can hear like there's a lot more dry sounds, kind of a lot of simpler sounds, a lot of things in different kind of genres. And today, we're happy to announce, which we have not announced before, for the first time, that the new library includes over 1,000 new patches. Okay? So to put that in perspective, that brings the grand total of sounds that are included with Omnisphere now to 14,000 sounds that come in the box with Omnisphere. So it's pretty crazy. Best of all, you don't need any of these keyboards to use those patches. You can if you want, and you can do all this amazing stuff, but you don't have to. They work on every system, and so all of these patches are for everybody, which is awesome. Of course, everybody that has Omnisphere too. But yes, so that's super cool. So now for the big questions. How much is all this goodness going to cost me? Ladies and gentlemen, Omnisphere 2.5 is free. That's right. This is another amazing free update for all Omnisphere 2 users, and it'll be officially available at the end of the month. So check your smart update system at the end of August, and it'll download to your system, and you'll be up and running. And you'll have all of these new sounds and all these new features and the new interface and all this kind of stuff. So that's pretty exciting stuff. So thank you guys so much for coming, and thank you for checking out Omnisphere 2 and being great customers. So one thing I'd like to do right now is I'd like to set the record straight about something that's very important to me. And I think the time has come to do this. And that is that because I'm up here on stage, I'm always the guy demoing, I end up getting all the credit for all that we do. And so people are like, man, you know, it's amazing what you do with Omnisphere. Well, there's a lot more to Spectrasonics than just me. So I am privileged to lead a team of amazing people. And so I wanted to bring everybody on stage that worked on Omnisphere 2.5. So would you guys please come on out? And so yeah, I'm very, very fortunate to work with these guys. Come on up, make it fast. Get up here, keep on coming. See, it's a lot more than just me. Yeah. So thank you guys so much for coming, and we hope you enjoy Omnisphere 2.5, and we hope you had a great time. All right, take care.